"You've never had kids. You don't belong here." My SIL mocked as she kicked me out of her baby shower. Little did she know, I was carrying the child she'd been trying to adopt. I stood in the elegant hallway of Amanda's house, my hand instinctively moving to my stomach as I watched my sister-in-law slam the door in my face. The carefully wrapped gift I'd brought tumbled from my other hand, its pink ribbon unraveling across the polished hardwood floor. My name is Olivia, and at 32, I never imagined I'd be thrown out of a baby shower while carrying my own child. But here I was fighting back tears as I heard the party resume behind the closed door. Amanda's voice carrying through as she made some joke about people who don't understand real motherhood. The irony was almost too much to bear. Just 3 months ago, Amanda and my brother James had been devastated when their latest adoption application was rejected. They'd been trying to adopt for years, each attempt ending in heartbreak. Amanda had become increasingly bitter, especially toward women who could have children naturally. I hadn't planned to attend the shower. It was for one of Amanda's friends who was expecting twins. But James had begged me to come, saying Amanda was having a hard time and needed family support. "Please live," he'd said over the phone. "She's really struggling with Sarah's pregnancy. Having you there might help." I should have known better. The morning had started pleasantly enough. I'd arrived early to help set up, ignoring the mild morning sickness that had become my constant companion. Amanda had barely acknowledged me, but I was used to that. I kept myself busy arranging flowers and setting out plates, carefully avoiding the champagne being poured. Everything changed when Sarah, the guest of honor, asked me if I had any children. "Not yet," I'd replied with a small smile, carefully choosing my words. I wasn't ready to share my news, especially not here. At just 11 weeks along, I was still keeping the pregnancy private. Amanda had overheard. "Olivia doesn't have kids," she announced loudly, her voice sharp. "She's too focused on her career to understand the joys of motherhood." Unlike some of us who would give anything to have a baby, the room had gone quiet. I felt the familiar twist of guilt, the same one I'd been battling since discovering my pregnancy. How could I tell my sister-in-law, who desperately wanted a child, that I was expecting? Especially since, actually, Sarah had said, trying to break the tension, "I think any woman who wants to be a mother has that maternal instinct. You don't have to have given birth to." "Don't," Amanda cut her off. "Don't talk about things you don't understand. Some of us have been trying for years, going through every possible procedure, filling out endless adoption paperwork, while others," she glared at me, "others just get to waltz through life without understanding real sacrifice." That's when I felt it, the now familiar wave of nausea. I rushed to the bathroom, barely making it in time. Through the door, I heard Amanda's running commentary about people who can't handle even being around children. When I emerged, pale but composed, Amanda was waiting. "I think you should leave," she said, her voice cold. "This is a celebration of motherhood, and you clearly don't belong here. You've never had kids, never will, and honestly, it's probably for the best. Some people just aren't meant to be mothers." Now, standing in the hallway, I pulled out my phone with trembling hands. There was a text from James. "I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" I started to type a response, then stopped. How could I tell my brother that his wife had just thrown out the woman carrying the child they'd been hoping to adopt? The baby growing inside me was the one they'd been waiting for, a private adoption I had been helping arrange through my work as a social worker. I'd been waiting for the right moment to tell them, wanting to be absolutely certain everything was in order first. The door opened suddenly, and Sarah slipped out, her face concerned. "Olivia, I'm so sorry." Amanda was completely out of line. "Are you all right?" I managed a weak smile. "I'm fine. Really? I should go." "You don't have to," she started, then her eyes widened as she noticed my hand still resting on my stomach. Being pregnant herself, she recognized the unconscious gesture. "Oh," she said softly. "Oh my goodness." I shook my head slightly, silently pleading for her understanding. She nodded, squeezing my arm gently. "Don't worry," she whispered. "Your secret's safe with me." "But Olivia," she glanced back at the closed door. "They're going to find out eventually." "I know," I replied, gathering my fallen gift. "But not today. Today's about you and your babies. Congratulations, Sarah." As I walked to my car, I could still hear the party continuing inside. Amanda's laugh rang out, harsh and brittle. If only she knew that the baby she'd been dreaming of, the one she had been trying to adopt for months, was growing right under her nose. But as I stood there in the warm spring sunshine, one thought kept circling through my mind. How was I going to tell them now? The next 2 weeks were a blur of dodged calls and careful avoidance. James tried reaching out several times, but I kept our conversations brief and professional, focusing only on the adoption case they thought I was helping with. Each time he brought up the baby shower incident, I changed the subject. Amanda feels terrible, he said during one call, though we both knew that wasn't true. She's just been emotional since the last adoption fell through. I sat in my office at the social services department, staring at the ultrasound photo hidden in my desk drawer. James, we both know that's not true, but I don't want to discuss it. Liv, please. You're my sister. I hate this tension between you and Amanda. I quickly closed the drawer as my colleague Sophia walked in, carrying more files. At 13 weeks pregnant, I had finally told my supervisor and close coworkers, but we were keeping it quiet, especially since I was handling my brother's adoption case. Technically, I shouldn't have been assigned to it at all. But our small office was understaffed, and I had been helping them navigate the process for months. I have to go, I told James. I have a meeting. After hanging up, I turned to Sophia. Any news about the Mason case? She nodded, her expression concerned. The birth mother's having second thoughts. She's considering keeping the baby. My heart sank. This was exactly what I'd been worried about. The young woman whose baby I was carrying had initially been matched with James and Amanda, but she had backed out at the last minute. That's when I discovered I was pregnant, and everything became complicated. What do we do? I asked, though I already knew the answer. We have to tell them, Sophia replied gently. They need to know their adoption match has fallen through, again. I nodded, feeling the weight of multiple secrets pressing down on me. I'll tell them. They should hear it from me. That evening, I drove to James and Amanda's house, my heart pounding. I had barely stepped out of my car when Amanda opened the front door, her face tight with forced politeness. Oh, it's you, she said flatly. James didn't mention you were coming. I need to talk to both of you. It's about the adoption. Her expression changed instantly, hope lighting up her features. Did you find us another match? Is there a baby? Guilt twisted in my stomach, or maybe that was just morning sickness. Let's talk inside. James was in the living room, surrounded by half-assembled baby furniture. The sight made my heart ache. They had been so sure about this adoption. They had already started preparing the nursery. Olivia has news about the adoption, Amanda announced, practically bouncing with excitement. I took a deep breath. You should sit down. They did, hands clasped together, and I saw the moment they registered my expression. James's face fell, while Amanda's hardened into something defensive. The Mason case. I started carefully. The birth mother has decided to keep her baby. I'm so sorry. The silence that followed was deafening. No, Amanda whispered. No, you promised this one was certain. You said everything was arranged. Amanda, James said softly, trying to calm her. Don't, she snapped, jumping to her feet. This is her fault. She's sabotaging us because she's jealous, because she can't have children of her own. She doesn't want anyone else to be happy either. The irony of her words hit me like a physical blow. I pressed a hand to my stomach, fighting another wave of nausea. That's not true, I managed. These things happen in adoptions. Birth mothers have the right to change their minds. Get out, Amanda hissed. Get out of my house. I never want to see you again. Find someone else to handle our case. Amanda, please, James started, but she cut him off. Choose James, right now, your barren sister or your wife, who actually wants a family. I saw the conflict on my brother's face, the pain in his eyes as he looked between us, but I knew what he would choose, what he always chose. I'll show myself out, I said quietly, turning toward the door. Liv, wait, James called after me. But I was already gone, hurrying to my car as the tears finally started to fall. As I drove home, one hand resting protectively on my small bump, I realized I couldn't keep this secret much longer. At 14 weeks, I would start showing soon. And with the Mason adoption falling through, James and Amanda would be devastated, desperate for any hope of having a child. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Did you tell them about the Mason case? Yes, I replied when I got home. But not about the other thing. Olivia, you need to tell them. The longer you wait, the harder it will be. She was right, of course. But how could I tell them now? How could I explain that when their adoption match fell through, I had approached the birth mother privately? That when she told me she trusted me, knew me from our counseling sessions, and would feel better about the adoption if I carried the baby, I had agreed. I hadn't planned it this way. I had only meant to help, to give my brother and sister-in-law the baby they desperately wanted. The artificial insemination had worked on the first try, and everything had been proceeding perfectly until Amanda threw me out of that baby shower. Now, sitting alone in my apartment, I pulled out the ultrasound photo again. The baby, their baby, my baby, our complicated little miracle, was healthy and growing right on schedule. But with every passing day, the truth became harder to tell. My phone buzzed again. James. I'm sorry about Amanda. Please don't give up on us. I stared at his message, tears blurring my vision. How could I tell them now that their dream of having a baby was growing inside the sister they had just rejected? How could any of us move forward from here? The baby kicked, a tiny flutter that only I could feel, as if reminding me that time was running out. One way or another, the truth would come out, and when it did, nothing would ever be the same. The truth came out sooner than I'd planned, and in the worst possible way. At 16 weeks pregnant, I couldn't hide it anymore. My small bump was becoming noticeable, and office whispers had started reaching beyond our department. I knew it was only a matter of time before word got back to James and Amanda. I was preparing to tell them when fate intervened. At a routine doctor's appointment, I ran into Sarah, the same Sarah from the baby shower. She was there for her twins' checkup, and her face lit up when she saw my obvious pregnancy. Olivia, I'm so happy for you, she exclaimed before lowering her voice. Have you told them yet? Before I could respond, I heard a sharp intake of breath behind me. There stood Amanda, clutching a stack of fertility clinic paperwork, her face draining of color as she took in my pregnant form. You? She whispered, her voice trembling with rage. All this time, while we've been struggling, waiting for our adoption match, you've been pregnant. Amanda, please let me explain. Explain what? How you hid this from us? How you sat in our house 2 weeks ago, telling us our adoption had fallen through while you were carrying your own child. It's not what you think. But she was already pulling out her phone, dialing James. You need to come to the women's clinic. Now, your sister has been lying to us. Everything unraveled quickly after that. James arrived within minutes, his face a mask of confusion that turned to shock when he saw me. We ended up in an empty consultation room, the weight of secrets finally too heavy to bear. The baby, I said quietly, my hand resting on my bump. It's yours. The silence that followed was deafening. What are you talking about? Amanda demanded. So I told him everything. About the birth mother who'd backed out, but who trusted me. About the agreement we'd made, the artificial insemination, the careful legal arrangements. How I planned to tell them after the first trimester, but then the baby shower happened. You're carrying our baby? James asked, his voice cracking. Amanda sat heavily in a chair, her face unreadable. The adoption didn't fall through at all, did it? You're the birth mother. Technically, yes, but this baby was always meant for you. Everything is legally arranged. I'm just helping. Amanda laughed bitterly. You're carrying my baby and you didn't tell me? You let me throw you out of a baby shower, call you barren, while all this time. I wanted to tell you, I whispered. But how could I? After everything you said, after how you treated me. James moved closer, his eyes fixed on my bump. Can I? I nodded, tears falling as he placed his hand gently on my stomach. As if on cue, the baby kicked. Amanda made a small broken sound. That's our baby. Yes, I said softly. Your baby. I'm just helping them grow until they're ready to be with their real parents. Something shifted in Amanda's expression. She stood slowly, moving closer. All this time, you've been protecting our child. Taking vitamins, dealing with morning sickness, going to appointments. For us. I nodded, unable to speak through my tears. Oh God, she whispered, the baby shower. The things I said to you. It's okay. It's not okay, she cut me off. I was horrible to you, and you were. You were giving us the most precious gift anyone could give. The next few minutes were a blur of tears, apologies, and tentative touches to my growing bump. As the initial shock wore off, questions started pouring out. How was I feeling? Had I been eating properly? Did I need anything? I have all the ultrasound photos, I told them. And videos of the heartbeat, would you like to see? Amanda grabbed my hand, squeezing it tight. We want to see everything. And from now on, if you let us, we want to be part of everything. You already are, I said, placing her hand where the baby was kicking. This little one has always been yours. I'm just the aunt who was helping them get here safely. As we left the clinic that day, arrangements already being made for future appointments and birthing plans, I felt lighter than I had in months. The secret was out, and though things weren't perfect, we still had a lot to work through. We were finally moving forward together. 6 months later, as I watched Amanda hold her newborn daughter for the first time, tears streaming down her face, I knew every complicated moment had been worth it. James hugged me tight, whispering thank you over and over, while their daughter, my niece, yawned and stretched in her mother's arms. Family isn't always simple. Sometimes it's messy and complicated, full of misunderstandings and hurt feelings. But sometimes, if we're brave enough to face the truth and kind enough to forgive, it can be more beautiful than we ever imagined. Amanda named her daughter Hope because she said that's what I'd given them when they needed it most. And every time I see them together, I know I made the right choice. Some gifts are worth all the complications in the world.